What is going on, people? Welcome to Monday night stream with me, Jim Vessel. How's everyone doing? Who else is in here? What's up, Brian? How's it going? Welcome to chat. Spelled my name wrong. If that makes you feel worse or better, I'm not sure how that makes you feel. Spelled my last name wrong. Only one S. I will forgive you. Yeah, you should feel bad, especially because it's in the stream title. Yep. Literally every person I know spells my name wrong, so not a big deal. Even Scary, I was on his podcast like a few weeks ago, and he like tagged me on Facebook, but then like spelled my name wrong. So like my name is clearly spelled right, and then he's, I don't know. People just gravitate towards putting extra letters in my name. So, all right. So today, very surprising, very exciting. We're going to be working on some Death Shroud. I still have. I've been working on a unit of. Can't see them all here. 11 Death Shroud. So I'm trying to get through all these Death Shroud. They are super broken and amazing. So I want to finish those for my Death Guard. And then yeah, more like Vassal. Just guys, by the way, just let me know if my music's too loud or I'm too quiet. I just want to make sure that my levels are good because I've been having some sound and I'm still kind of bad at this whole streaming thing, so it's not always clear if like it's not always clear to me if that's like too loud. I'm a bit quiet. Okay, let me see this. I'm quiet. That's not good. What if I do this? This is my thing, is like on each program, I feel like I have to. Is that any better? Oh, no, I didn't actually. Is that any better? Too loud, too quiet? Yeah, a little. Well, you can also turn your volume up. That's a solution. If I'm the only one, just turn your volume up. Or is my music too loud if you turn the volume up? I don't even know what half these buttons do. How's that? Is that any better? Or does that sound the same? How about that? Is that better? Ah, okay. Well, this is probably as good as it's going to get. I'm scared if I go any louder, I'm going to cause feedback issues. I think, yeah, so I did a podcast on Thursday with David Kozka, and people said that he was too quiet, and so I turned up the sound, and ended up being too loud, and he was too quiet, so like the sound quality is like shite, and I ended up, yeah, so it was shitty sound quality, and I will talk a little bit about that today as well, but that was exciting. Yeah, so I'm working on Death Shroud. Basically, what I've done so far, kind of where they're at as far as the paint, is all the armor's done, like the white armor. I've done all the purple. I have 11 Death Shroud here. I've done all the purple. I've done the green. I'm just starting to go through and paint all the maggots. So Death Guard Death Guard's kind of annoying because like there's like little maggot worms on like a lot of different spots in the armor. So right now I'm going through and I'm painting kind of all the fleshy areas and maggots. In some olive flesh with Pro Acryl, my favorite. And then basically what I'm gonna do is, just as like a quick hack, this is a nice color because it's kind of like an off bone. So I'll just base coat all the fleshy things, like the maggots with this color. I'll base coat my bone areas with this color, any fleshy bits. And then I will just wash them with different colors. So I will do my flesh areas with Caribou Crimson just to give them like a bit of a red tone, and then go back and highlight. And then the maggots themselves will give like a brown wash. And then the bone I will give a brown wash as well, but instead of highlighting with like flesh color, I'll highlight with bone color. So it just saves me a little bit of time, like picking one base coat color that like I can do 3 or 4 different items, and then just using the washes to kind of give them a tone. I find that's like a quick way to do it. I'm doing 11 Death Shroud, but I have 3 more assembled that so the 11 that I have here are ones that I bought, but I also bought 3 more from a buddy that were like pre-painted and they were like awfully painted. So I had them in a bath of stripper, and the stripper wasn't working super well. So I ordered an ultrasonic cleaner because I heard that those are kind of cool, and I've been needing an excuse to buy one. So the ultrasonic cleaner should get here tomorrow, and then once it arrives, I'm gonna paint the rest of them. So yeah. All right. So happy Monday, everyone. Nothing really happened this weekend except this preview. So I just want to kind of talk a little bit about that. I'm gonna talk a little bit about kind of the stream and what my plans are and kind of what I'm going to be doing moving forward, especially this week. There's lots of exciting stuff happening. Um, I did want to, on Thursday, as I mentioned, we had our first episode of the Best Overall Show with Kazka. I hope you guys managed to check it out. It was our first episode, still kind of, oh God, I'll get into it, man. I'll get into it. I got thoughts. I got lots of thoughts. But we are doing we're going to be doing a show every Thursday, and this show that we had last week and obviously next week's show we're not going to have any guests, but then starting on the following week we're going to be doing a guest, bringing in guests as well to interview. And so I have some pretty cool guests. Having done like the podcast circuit and the like interview circuit for like all of 2019 where everyone was asking me to like do interviews, I did probably like I feel like every podcast that exists. And so I have a lot of favors to call in from like people that were I was on their podcasts, and now I have lots of favors to call in to come on my show, even though it's not really a podcast. I will be releasing it in podcast form though. I didn't release this first episode just because the sound quality is so shitty. So eventually I will be releasing it in podcast form. A few other things, if you guys are watching on Twitch, please make sure to subscribe to YouTube just because I know they're 2 different platforms, but we're trying to get up to 100 followers on YouTube. We're 1 follower away from 100 on Twitch, which is amazing because we just started this channel like 2 weeks ago. So I'm super proud about that. So if you get a chance, please subscribe to us on YouTube. Please also make sure to hit the little bell to put on notifications. I will be starting this week posting a stream schedule every Monday, so you guys can kind of see what's going on the stream. Generally, I'm going to be streaming around 6 p.m. Pacific, which is when I get home from work. And then weekends, yeah, it's the link is it's not the same name just because I need 100 followers on YouTube to get a custom name. So once I get 100 followers, I can actually get a custom name. Right now, it's like a crazy weird letter. But if you go to our Facebook, or sorry, if you go to my Instagram, either Duplicity Studio Instagram or JimboV_paints, there's a link. You know what? I can just post it in the chat because I'm the mod and I'm allowed to do that. So stay tuned 1 sec, and I will just do that for you. How about that? Um, the glory of being the chat mod. Here we go. 1 sec. I don't know why I was making you jump through all these hoops when I could just post you a link. There you go. So that's the chat, the YouTube channel. So you see how it's got like a weird like 17 letter number ending? That's because I'm just like a baby. But once I get 100 followers, and I think I need to have 400 hours of viewed content, I can apply for like a custom channel name. So so anyway, so Best Overall Show every Thursday. We're gonna have guests starting in a few weeks. Got some really exciting topics. This week we're gonna be talking a lot about judge painting versus rubric painting versus player choice painting. It's gonna be a kind of our big subject this week. We're also gonna be talking about our thoughts on both the Drukari book and the preview that we just saw on Saturday. Although I'm gonna talk a little bit about it today. This is gonna be more just kind of my soapbox rather than much of a discussion. And then I did actually talk quite a bit about kind of tournament etiquette in regards to like incorrect lists and stuff last week, and it actually caused, I don't want to say it caused controversy, but definitely there was some like mixed opinions on like my position. And I just want one thing that I did want to clarify on my position and what I talked about on Thursday is um, all the conversation that I was having regarding like the outcomes and like how do we move forward as a community, what should the remedy be for cheating or incorrect list mistakes and stuff like that, all of that was mostly directed towards future. It was in no way any like opinion, I guess, on the specific events at Clutch City, because I actually think it was dealt with appropriately, and I think everything was above board. And from what I understand, Sean even offered to like basically say like, hey, I won't take the win, but and he can correct me if I'm wrong. So my comments were mostly related to moving forward as a community, and the incident at Clutch City just yeah, the incident at Clutch City, all it did was for me it was like a good reason to have that discussion. It wasn't because I thought anything had happened untowards, and I made I made my position clear. Like obviously, I know I know that Sean wouldn't have cheated intentionally, so it was, and obviously in that specific case with Sean, the mistake was like very legit. Like it's a very like doable mistake. But what I think that it exposed, and I think what that should mean is the type of mistake he made, there's a way around it, right? Like so moving forward, and this is something kind of where the conversation I think should go is moving forward, TOs and part of the event pack should clarify which copies or editions of rules are in use. So for instance, moving forward in events, TOs or as part of the rules pack, it should say points levels from points and unit size levels from chapter approved 2019 or 2021 or 20 whatever are the ones that are going to be used. Not from the app, not from Battlescribe, not from fucking whatever else, Bush League, army building software you're using. But if they put in the pack, hey, army unit sizes and like points levels will be used from this specific publication, then what that does is it covers all the bases. So it actually solves that problem where if there is two differing things, now which one takes precedent and which one is essentially ultimately correct, well the TOs might not know that. So in this case it's not, I mean, well the Dark Eldar book just came out and it's clear that it's 3 to 9, but at the time I don't think any TO could have reasonably assumed that um, the the 1 to 9 was totally incorrect. Like I think there's an argument there to be made. I think the question just really comes down to um, like how binding is that, right? So I think moving forward, what needs to happen is like as part of every FAQ or every tournament pack, they should refer back to, hey, we're using points and unit sizes from chapter approved 2021 published on X date. And if they do that, then that actually solves that whole problem, right? Then there's no gray area for people to say, oh, well, there's two different versions out there, right? Like everyone should be using the same version. And as long as that happens, then what that does is it comes back to the conversation of what I was talking about, which is okay. Let's say that does happen, whether intentional or not. What is the remedy? And I was listening to TFG Radio, which is the podcast that John and Adam, the guys that basically do the judging at LVO, um, they do the judging at LVO, and they had a podcast on Friday, and basically one of the things they talked about, and I'm not sure, it was one of the other co-hosts. I can't remember all the co-hosts. I mostly remember John just because he's the meme lord of 40k, and Adam has a very unique voice, so I remember that Adam's on it, but I can't remember who their third co-host is. But one of the things that they said, and I think the third co-host said, was that yeah, it's John, Adam, and there's one more person, Tom. I think it was Tom. Tom basically said, look. Um, I think it should be like, I totally disagree with what Tom said. So Tom was basically like, well, it should really be up to the TOs and it should be super subjective based on many, many circumstances. And I actually think that's a total wrong approach because of the fact, you know, um, because of the fact of what we were talking about, which is there's there's way too many um, opportunities there for like judges to bring in their own personal bias and to make calls. Like one of the things that Tom mentioned was like, okay, does this player have a history, or does this player have, is he a good player or a bad player? Like he was bringing in all sorts of subjective and like I thought kind of irrelevant points into the conversation, basically saying like, look, if the player is a Nick Nanavati and he has a coaching service, then we should judge him to a different standard than someone who is a brand new player, right? But I actually don't agree with that. I think everyone should get a uniform standard. The tournament pack should be clear on how to build lists, and if new players don't know how to do it, don't understand it, that's fine. And then there needs to be remedies for that as well. But like ultimately, I don't think we should be treating certain players just because they're newer a lot easier. And I'm talking specifically around kind of tournament outcomes and kind of remedies. Now, none of those new players are going to win the event for sure, but I just don't agree with the fact that just because Nick has a coaching service, he should be treated to a higher standard than someone else. People make mistakes, and Nick's human too, and he makes a mistake. I make mistakes in my list writing. I literally did that in the Greek Hammer event. I made a copy and paste error, and it made it look like my Demon Prince had two spells, and obviously they can't have two spells. And we suffered a 10-point penalty, our team Canada, on the round because I had a typo in my list. And it was very obvious that I'd made a copy and paste error because the malignant plaguecaster in the next line, basically like I'd copied his like spell profile, and it was very obvious, like anyone with common sense. But we still took the penalty, and that because that was the penalty laid out in the pack, and no one is going to say that, oh well, because Jim's Jim, like he should be held to a different standard than someone else. I totally agree with that. I think there needs to be a uniform standard. That was the whole point I was making on Thursday, was that the standard isn't uniform right now. In fact, players get treated differently and get treated either better or worse based on their reputations, based on their skill level, based on experience, based on all these factors that are totally irrelevant to the actual thing. Now, you might say, there's an argument made that judges, I think Tom even brought it up. He's like, that's why we have judges, right? Because there's lots of subjectivity, and we need them to judge, right? We need to make the judges, right? But no, the thing is with the judges is the judges are there to enact the law. But in these cases, there is no law, right? Like there isn't some clear law that says if X then Y, if A then B, right? That's the problem. The problem is there is no law for the judges to enact. There's a totally, it's like total like a kangaroo court, right? You commit a crime, you come before the judge. There's no real law. There's no real like guidelines. There's no real whatever, and now the judge has to make a totally out of the blue made up call. There's no sentencing guideline. There's no punishment guideline. None of that exists right now. Like there is a little bit in the code of conduct, but not related to these kinds of issues, not related to list mistakes, which is specifically what I was talking about. Now, if you want to argue that, yeah, there's a guideline when it comes to yellow cards, red cards, cheating, like explicit cheating, there definitely is a guideline in the code of conduct. But when it comes to like someone making writing an incorrect army list, those laws just don't exist, right? I agree with you, Brian. It's hard to get uniformity, and that's why I was advocating for something like a like WADA, right? Like the World Anti-Doping Agency, the Warhammer Anti-Doping Agency is basically what we need. So I guess my point is, kind of wrapping up, is I agree that there always should be a little bit of subjectivity, right? There's always going to be a little bit of subjectivity, but our job is to create a rule set that removes as much of that as possible. Um, yeah, I just think in the end of the day, like I think look, and I'm not a TO, so maybe it's easy for me to stand here on my soapbox and like guys, hey TOs, it's so easy. Just make these hard calls. I'm not the one that actually has to like talk to those players and deal with them, so I give that to the TFG guys. But I guess at the end of the day, what I'm advocating for is a consistent rule set, is a more robust set of like directives and rules, so that their jobs actually become easier and there's less judgment involved. So there will always be some judgment, right? The question is how do we remove as much judgment as possible so that the punishment is applied equally and fairly across multiple events, multiple circuits, multiple countries? That's ultimately what the goal should be, right? And so while there will always be some level of subjectivity, what we want to be doing is creating a system that removes as much of that as possible, right? Like if you get, you know, if you get charged with first degree murder, the judge can't like decide all of a sudden he's just going to let you go because he doesn't think, like if you're found guilty of first degree murder, oftentimes there's like a minimum sentence or there's like certain minimums that like crime. The judge can't just be like, you know what, you're guilty, but like I like you, so like you're free. Like there would be like it would throw the whole justice system into total like chaos, right? Now, my counter argument to myself is that the idea of mandatory minimums is something that I actually don't like in criminal justice uh, because I feel like our law system is also broken and also complex, our justice system, and so you oftentimes get these cases like I know in the U.S. the three strikes rule is like an awful thing. Obviously, I live in Canada, so we're not like a carceral society like the states where like so many people are in prison. We just don't have that like culture of like throwing people in jail here. So I have probably very different reviews than maybe people that are in the states, but the U.S. has a huge prison population issue, which is neither here nor there nor related to this podcast. But I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point. But I guess my point is I also don't want minimum sentences where it's like there's zero judgment involved because like if I don't know like if I smudge my Cheeto dust on my army list and it makes a 1 look to a 2 and people accuse me of cheating or something like that, like I don't want there to be like zero recourse, right? There should be a system, but also in criminal court there's an appeal system. There's higher authorities like the Supreme Courts of various states and the country to appeal to, so there is like a system to like get justice in the end. There's like probation. There's like all sorts of things, right? Like it's very complicated. The justice system, and I'm saying that I'm just talking about Warhammer. And although in the criminal justice system things like mandatory sentences are not a good, I don't think is a good idea. There's obviously sentencing guidelines for every crime. They say okay, like if you commit X, you should be getting between 12 and 24 months, and then within that the judge makes the call, right? They still use the guidelines, right? They don't just say or. And I think Warhammer is a much simpler system, so it's okay to implement something like minimum guidelines because the worst case scenario in Warhammer, if you make a mistake, the worst thing that can happen is like you just don't win the tournament and you lose your games. That's that's like a very low um, that's like a very low consequence outcome, right? It's the same reason I don't believe in the death penalty, right? And whole whole conversation. But at the end of the day, like in the criminal justice system, if the worst outcomes are things like the death penalty and like life imprisonment. So you have to get it right. Whereas in Warhammer, we can be a little bit stricter and more tighter on our punishments because like the worst outcome is very small. It doesn't affect you very much. Now, sure, if you flew from Spain to LVO and you spent thousands and thousands of dollars and it's found out after game 2 you're, blah 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 blah, okay. Then there's a financial penalty there, but I don't think any new players are flying to LVO to play games and then we're going to like gotcha them with list issues. So anyway, so that's my kind of I guess follow-up slash amendment to my whole conversation I was having on Thursday. I'm really curious what people think, but I just think there needs to be more consistency in our the way that we rule events. So, all right, we're gonna actually do some painting because I feel like I've just been ranting for 20 minutes. All right. What am I gonna do next? Oh yeah, let's get some washes. Um, I'm actually yeah. So other exciting things. I played a real life game with a real human being on Saturday, which was really exciting. Death Guard versus my buddy Miles Harlequins, which was really fun. My first only can you if you can believe it, only my second real life game of ninth edition. So that was I have what, Brian? What have I done? Oh, so he had oh man, he had 2 units of bikes, 2 units of 5 bikes, I think. Um, Yeah, of course I rant. That's the whole reason I do this show. The reason I have this I'm starting to stream is like 80% because no one wants me on their podcast to like take it over and give them my hot takes and ranting. So this is my own soapbox where I can kind of just spill my guts and just say all sorts of outrageous stuff, and they can't hook me off the air. Um, that's really the goal is just to have someone to talk to, especially because I've been lonely in quarantine. So I haven't really had a chance to like play and have my shouts with people. The Harlequin list I played was 2 units of 5 bikes. It was like I want to say four or five Star Weavers with like troops in them with five fusions each. He had a Death Jester, a Shadow Seer, and a Troop Master. Um, and then he had um, And then I think he had the minus 6 inch to range thing. He had the minus 1 to wound thing. Look, it's David Koska. He's texting me. Um, and then he had what else did he have? Yeah, that was basically it. It was like 6 boats, I think, with characters and troops with fusion, like fuck ton of fusion. And then he had 2 units of 5 bikes, basically. Um, um, yeah, so I played my Death Guard. I won 72 to 66 or something like that. So it was a good game. Miles is like probably one of the better like players in our region. He's like probably like top 2 or 3. It was really tough. The thing is, he didn't realize how disgusting Death Shrouds with the biologist with like the 6 more. I was putting out so many mortal wounds. I had 2 Volkite contemptors sat in the backfield just like raking him. And with the 45-inch range, his minus 6 inch range thing is like doesn't do anything. And then the 2 units of 5 Death Shroud I had with the biologist with Arch Contaminator, their flamers are disgusting, right? Like when you're doing 566 strength 3 flamer shots with full rerolls, pistols too, like it just clears Harlequin so fast, right? Even though they're like strength 3 AP 0, because you have full rerolls to wound, they're like super disgusting. And so I just marched those 2 blocks up the board and just was like flaming things. Um and yeah, and then my like all 3 of my casters miscast within the first 2 turns and did 3 wounds to each. So that was not fun, but yeah, it was a fun game. I also played my game of TTS against the against was that last week? Yeah, on Wednesday I played against the Polish or the German, sorry, which was I got beat up pretty bad on that one. But I think that was just a combination of mistakes on my end and a few other things, and then we're now playing. Guess who we get to play in our next round of Greek Hammer? We're playing Team England, with featuring one Alex Harrison and some of the other guys from Team England. So I'm not sure when we're doing pairings, but as soon as I know I have my game scheduled with the English guys, I will post that in this stream as well, and let everyone know what time that game is going to be. So that should be really fun. I'm excited to play the English guys, and they're actually excited to be playing a team that's like speaks English as a first language. But then I was like, wait till you meet Eric, who's our French player, because you're gonna be like, because he probably speaks worse English than the Polish people. So it's gonna be kind of funny. Um, and we're also doing a scrim match, just like a practice match against Team Poland as well. So I'll be setting up 2 TTS games, one against England, one against Poland. Most likely playing both of those either over the weekend this week or early next week. No, Tom's not playing. He's on Northern Ireland. Um, but oh yeah, and then sorry, he's on Team Wales, I think. And then we also have a scrim match against Northern Ireland coming up in a few weeks. I think that one starts in April. So that should be interesting as well. So yeah, just playing some TTS. We're trying to get a 40k league going out here in British Columbia. Once like me and a local guy are basically organizing it. Um, but we can't actually start it right now because we're still kind of under a slight lockdown. But things are I can't tell if things are getting better or not. But like the plan right now is to just get everyone signed up and then basically start the league as soon as lockdown ends. So we're hoping that we can start it in like May, um, hopefully May or early June. So yeah, Tom plays for Northern like Wales. Not actually, it doesn't seem like I know he talks a big game, but I don't actually think he plays that many games. I think he's more like he reminds me of like a commentator, on TV. The ones that are like they're retired and like they still reliving their glory days, pretending like they know what they're talking about. Not to say that Tom doesn't know what he's talking about, but he just reminds me of those like washed out like goalie or like sports commentators. And you're like, dude, and every time there's like something that happens. Yeah, Dayton's out here, and I actually just found out Dan from um, AOS Dan. What's his name? He was on Honest Wargamer with me. Dan. Let me see. Yeah, the guy, Dan. He's on Honest Wargamer. I don't know his last name. Anyone else know who he is? Anyways, um, um, which army is this? New to the hobby. This is Death Guard. I'm painting. Oh, these are Death Shot Terminators. Evil chaos dudes. Um, so Dan from the podcast, it turns out he's like honorary. He just became Canadian citizen. He lives like 2 blocks from me. I just found out. He's like an Aussie in Canada. I found out on Sunday that he literally lives like yeah. So he lives like 3 blocks from me. So maybe we'll. I don't play AOS, but maybe I'll once pandemic's over, I'll hang out with him a little bit. Um, so I thought that was really funny. Um, Canada's Canada's like Canada's a huge country. It's the second largest country, but like most of our population is in like 6 cities. So it is like a little bit of a small town. Like there's not that many like big cities and stuff. So, and really like between Vancouver and Toronto, I feel like it's the two main cities, besides Montreal. But no one likes the people from Montreal because they're mostly French. And no one likes the French. Well, I certainly don't. French was the only class I ever failed in university. Believe it or not, I was an A student except for my French skills. Awful. Yeah, done. With John. Um. Yeah. Okay, I get it. I'm honestly the new vampire stuff. Like looks so good. I've always liked Blood Knights. I've always liked vampires. Like my love of vampires goes back to the 6th edition army book where I think they first introduced the 4 different bloodlines, and you had like the Strigoi, you had the Carsteens, you had the Blood Dragons, and then you had the Nef. What was it? What was the last one? The chicks that were like seducing everyone. Nef, it's like Neferatu or something like that. I don't know. That was when I really liked vampire counts, and I really like this AOS stuff because for me it reminds me of like old school fantasy. It has like a very like classic like fantasy vibe, like for both on the um like aesthetic. Whereas I prefer that over like the crazy like flying foxes and like wind wind cloud invisible elves that AOS has. Like I actually don't like as much as I think the like Lumineth stuff and like the Deepkin stuff and like some of that stuff's cool. I much prefer the classic aesthetic of. Yeah, man, Rick, I feel you, my friend. I love the old school. I'm an old school fan. Like that's my jam, old school fantasy. Um, so I definitely like that older vibe that the new vampire counts give out. I was really surprised that they updated the skeletons because I think the current skeletons are actually quite good still. So that was a little bit of a surprise, but um, I'll take it. I just feel bad for Eldar because I saw the new like Necromunda gang, and I'm like, I think there's now more Necromunda gangs than more plastic Necromunda gangs than Eldar Aspect Wars in plastic, which is really sad when you think about it. Like the time they spent to put out like the 6 or 7 different gangs in plastic for Necromunda, they could have redone the entire Eldar range and had it in plastic. So that's just kind of sad to me. 2002, you got back into it 2002? That's 18 years ago. 18, 19 years ago? A long time ago. Yeah, I agree with you, man. I started reading them and I'm like, I need a flowchart and like a like a guide of some kind to tell me how to actually build a list. This is why I usually with like the new stuff, I just wait till the battle scribe's updated, and then I play around there. That's how I usually like read my lists. I'm like, okay, what options? Because it'll assign the options that a unit. Ah, okay. Oh, I thought you said you got back into it in 2002. I was like, damn, you that was a that's a like a uh you must have quit and then gotten back into it like a long time ago. I think I started in like 97, so I'm not that far ahead of you. Rick, what are you playing right now? Are you playing AOS or 40K? Yeah, these are Nurgle, so these are part of the Death Guard, which is the Nurgle Chaos Space Marine Legion. They're like super OP right now. So I'm just working on I want to get these guys finished soon because I have almost a 4,000 point Dark Angels commission that I need to do. And the stuff is just starting to arrive, so I'm trying to finish these so that I can kind of focus entirely on that before, yeah. Then this is my personal stuff, so I'm just trying to get these kind of personal projects out of the way so that I have like everything fully painted. Although I also have 30 Poxwalkers that they're currently in a shoebox. This is my shoebox of Poxwalkers. I really don't want to paint. I also have a 30k Typhus in here. Do you want to see how small he is? Check this out. This is 30k Typhus, which is supposed to be like the biggest, baddest Terminator guy in 30k, and this is a Death Shroud. Look at the size difference. It's like ridiculous. Like these are chonk. And then this is like, yeah, I can give you tricks, man. This is a 30k Nurgle Sorcerer. Look how small he is. Isn't that crazy? Like insane how much scale creep there's been in the game from 30k to 40k. But I don't. This is like literally. I don't even know what I'm gonna do with this model because like I already have 2 malignant Plaguecasters, and even 2 of them is like awful. Thanks for the follow, Rick. Appreciate it, man. But I've just been streaming for a few weeks, so I'm gonna be doing a lot more tutorials and stuff like that as I kind of get going. I also am gonna. This is also a model that I'm gonna be excited to work on. It's a Sigvald, but I converted him with a Abaddon sword because I don't like his little tiny dinky sword. So 30k, so Warhammer 40k is like the main game, and then Warhammer 30k is basically a game that was developed by Forge World, which is the kind of offshoot company of Games Workshop that makes resin miniatures. So Games Workshop has a few different subsidiaries. So there's like the main company, Games Workshop. They make all the models, and then there's Black Library, which is the kind of company that does their books. And then Forge World is like another company from Games Workshop that basically does very limited and very expensive, like low volume resin models. So instead of being plastic, like a lot of the GW stuff, they're mostly made of resin. And then they also do a lot of the specialist games as well. So like Blood Bowl, Necromunda, hopefully Battlefleet Gothic at some point, Warcry, these kinds of other smaller games. Forge World is responsible for all those. And so 30K is basically based around the events of the Horus Heresy, which is a giant storyline with like 70 books in the year 30K. It's basically the story of how Horus betrayed the Emperor and all the chaos, the Marine legions went to chaos and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I could spend you 30 hours talking about it, and I still wouldn't be like 1% through of 30K universe. So, but it is a separate game. It uses an older rule system. It uses the rules for 7th edition 40K with some modifications as well. And it's mostly just Space Marines versus Space Marines. So there really isn't any other races in there. There's a little bit of demons thrown in here and there, but that's about it. It's mostly Space Marines, which makes it a very different game than like regular 40K. But it's still, but there's a lot of the models because like Chaos basically exists in 30K, like it started in 30K, and because a lot of the models are 10,000 years old. Here, I'll show you something really quick. I'll be right back. I'm just getting a model to show you the big differences between 30K and 40K. All right, so you see here. So this is Typhus. So this is Typhus from Warhammer 30K. In the game of 30K, this is like before he's gone to Chaos, really. And his name's Callus Typhon, I think, is his name. And then then he turns to Chaos, and after 10,000 years, this is also Typhus. So this is the same character in two different game systems. So this is the 30K version, and this is the 40K version. So this is him normally before he goes all evil, and then after 10,000 years of Chaos, he turns into this guy. But they're the exact same character. It's just this is the 30K version, and this is the 40K version. Cool. Cool. He's very evil here, and that's what. So these guys are his like bros, his brosifs. That's what I'm painting right now to kind of go along with him. So, there you go. Yeah, yeah. Well, Nurgle makes everyone fat because it's basically he's like Nurgle's the god of disease, which is the god that they're all dedicated to. So they basically get like distended bellies and like pustules. Like these guys, I'm literally painting right here. I'll show you in a sec. Like right here. These right here are maggots. So there's literally maggots crawling into the armor. And so I'm gonna paint those as part of what I'm painting today. These little maggots and stuff. Yeah. And Typhus actually has basically yeah like literally he has a rule where he has like a swarm of like flying maggots that like live inside his body, and they come out to like infect people. So that's kind of like literally part of his rules. That's why he's so fat. Plus he's been eating, man. He's been bulking for 10,000 years. They don't have Jenny Craig in the eye tear, you know? Although maybe they should. What else? So yeah, so I'm gonna be doing some TTS streaming this week. 2 games probably. So make sure to check out the channel if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff. And then I was thinking, so I have a very small apartment. You guys can't see, but like this corner of my apartment that I'm sitting in is like probably a third of my apartment. I live in a studio apartment in downtown Vancouver. So I pay really cheap rent, but it's definitely small, but it's probably big enough to fit one table in the middle of like my living room. So I've been thinking about getting a table so I could do some stream games, but I'm not sure if that's something that like people would really actually watch or if that's very interesting. Um, but I'd like to maybe get the stream table set up in my apartment. I'm just trying to figure out how to do it because like I literally don't have the space to like have a 6x4 table. So I was thinking of getting one of those like folding tables, but I'm not sure yet. All right, where else is there maggots? No more maggots. You're gonna buy a lot of the free city stuff, but I mean the new vampire stuff. 5 by 3.8. What's that? That's how big my table should be. That seems like the wrong size table. Yeah, that's why, you know what? And there's like so many people that do streaming and it's like so much better. So I'd just rather do things that like painting content is like where my jam is. I'm always like been a painter and like conversation stuff like that is more my jam. So I'd probably prefer to do that than streams. Streams are just long too. Like I do I don't know if you can check out Play on Tabletop on YouTube. They're like a streaming channel. So they're actually local guys that I'm buddies with, and I've been on their stream a few times. So I'm gonna be doing another game. I think in April I'm gonna be doing recording an episode with them. My Death Guard. So that's what I'm trying to get everything painted because obviously the level of armies on the stream are very nice, and I've done a few videos with them already. So they do streaming already, and it's like if my streams can't be that good, it's like it almost feels pointless. So for the maggots, I'm super lazy. So what I do, let me just show you in a sec. So I just do this. I get olive flesh from ProAquarel. I do a little Agrax wash. So because I just paint them olive flesh Agrax wash, and then I just go back with a little bit of olive flesh to highlight, and that's it. Because they're so small, like you don't need to do you're not going to be doing multiple highlights. So it's just kind of a three-step process. Um, the key isn't painting. The key is finding them all. Because sometimes I'll be painting a model, think I've done all the maggots, and then I'll discover a maggot that I didn't see, and then that's really annoying. Yeah, they're everywhere though. And sometimes you can't even tell if they're like actual maggots or not. But that's why I usually do like every pose of the same model together. What are looking good? These guys? Are these models almost finished? It's kind of like it's weird. Like when I think about time, so like right now the main armor is done, and a lot of the like bigger areas have been done. But because of like just the non-linear nature of painting, even though I've finished about 80% of the surface area of the model, the last like 20% of the surface area takes like 50% of the time because there's a lot more smaller things, a lot more detail. Um, so when you say are they close to being done, I mean, yes, I've painted the majority of the model, but the remaining 10% is probably going to take 10 to 15% is going to take just as long as like the first 20%, if that makes sense, just because there is so many different little like bits of detail and stuff to do, and like lots of little tiny areas, and like the highlighting's a lot trickier and stuff like that. So yeah, man, these maggots are everywhere. It's kind of annoying. You kind of get used to it after playing painting Death Guard. Let's see here. Oops. I was gonna show you guys something. Hmm. Okay, check this out. So I'll show you. See if I can get this to work. Uh, so this is come on guys, let's see. No, that's not the right one. Oh god, I'm bad at this. I'm just trying to show you guys a photo, but it's apparently I'm not very good at this. Okay, forget about it. I give up. Oh, dude, man. Yeah, you can strip your models. I use a simple green. If it's plastic, just make sure you don't go too crazy with your primer. But yeah, it's pretty easy to strip models, man. And the only way you're ever gonna learn is by like trial and error. So times gotta fail, and you learn from that. But definitely, there's like a lot of resources out there. So make sure to check out things like YouTube, different types of painting streams, that kind of stuff. Because there's definitely lots of resources. Like you guys are so lucky. Like when I started painting in like 1997, and like YouTube didn't exist till like 2007. So like back then there was like didn't really have resources to like learn how to paint, except like going into the Warhammer shop. But now it feels like there's so much out there, right? There's so many ways. But sometimes, I always say that, like the best thing you can do to learn is to just paint. Read your tutorials and get like your kind of some tips and tricks, but nothing's gonna help you like just doing it. Damn it, I'm just finding more and more maggots. I just ordered an ultrasonic cleaner actually, so it should be here tomorrow. So I'm excited to to use it. I've been holding off buying one because like I don't usually strip minis because I just not because like I don't um like because I just well first of all I rarely buy used painted miniatures. I almost whenever I buy miniatures I almost always buy them brand new or new on sprue. I hate buying pre-built pre-assembled miniatures. So and then second I never usually screw things up these days to the point where I need to strip them. So it's very rare that I actually strip models these days. But in this specific case, the um, the models that I got were from a buddy, and Death Shroud Terminators have been so hard to get a hold of that I figured I would. And he sold me three for like $20. So I was like, all right, well for $20 I'll take them, I'll strip them, and I'll repaint them. And I left them in like the stripper for like a good day, and like literally like barely any of the paint came off. So hey dude, how's it going, man? JB, thanks for tuning in, man. What's good for your airbrush? Yeah, well, so, oh yeah, if you want to learn a lesson in what not to do, uh, don't leave your airbrush in simple green overnight because you can see the difference. So like the back part of my airbrush, I usually don't wash because there's never really any paint in it. I'll just rinse it, but the main chassis, I'll usually drop into my like cleaning solution. Like so usually I do like a 50-50 mix of simple green and water. And I'll disassemble my airbrush. If I'm doing like a deep clean, I'll drop everything in there and I'll leave it there for like a few hours. One night I forgot it in there, and it like totally like killed the color on my like the front half of my airbrush. Really sucks, but what you can do, right? Yeah, man, I got a nice little collection here of Death Strat, 11 to be exact. So I'm at the point now where I'm like having to go paint all the like little like little details and stuff, and it's like super annoying. Like I'm painting maggots right now. I'm in the maggot painting stage. It's not very exciting. Well, it is exciting if you're a maggot and you get some paint on you, but it's not exciting otherwise. Um, so, other than so I'm kind of I thought the preview was kind of lame, to be honest. Um, like we're so far behind on 40K releases right now, and like I thought we'd at least get the next 4 books to get announced, and it wasn't. That didn't happen, obviously. So I was a little disappointed in that. I thought we'd at least get a little bit more news. Rick, honestly I wouldn't recommend it. Not because I think it's hard, but because I think like the like when it comes to painting, like a big part of being not just a good painter, but just understanding how to paint is really just understanding things like even though I have an airbrush, 90% of like these models that I'm painting were all airbrushed, but like 90% of my painting I still do by brush. So the airbrush can help you in a lot of ways, and it can kind of give you some um, like there are some advantages to it. But if you don't know how to paint, and I'm not saying you have to paint really well, but I always hear these horror stories, and I was listening to uh, I was watching some YouTube video yesterday, and the guy was like, I bought this airbrush 10 years ago, and I've like never opened it. And I was on the Honest Wargamer as one of the guests. He's like, I bought this airbrush like 10 years ago, and like I never opened it, and like I have anxiety about like using my airbrush. And for me, like that's a damn shame because I think it's a really good tool in the toolbox. But again, it's just a tool, right? Like it's not gonna like you know if you want to build a house and you buy a hammer, that's great. But like if you still don't know how to build a house, then buying the hammer is not gonna help you build a house, right? Like you need to learn how to build a house first, and then the hammer is just there to help you build the house. It's not actually gonna do it for you. And I'd say the airbrush is similar. Like no, I wouldn't say it's like um I wouldn't say it's like you don't learn to layer. But the thing is like the airbrush is only going to take you so far, and so you're always going to need to have some minimum level of brush mastery. And for me, the airbrush, like I painted for probably 15 years before I got an airbrush, and I'm not saying you should do that because when I started painting, like to have an airbrush was like a big deal. Nowadays, almost like lots of people have airbrushes, but when I started painting, like owning an airbrush was like very luxurious, like if you had one. Nowadays, I think it's a lot more common. Um, but I just think like you really need to like understand a lot of basic principles on painting before you're gonna be able to use your airbrush effectively and not just get frustrated with it because the airbrush itself I wouldn't say it's difficult to use, but like there's a lot of things that you need to know and understand about how to paint before you're gonna find like the effort it takes to clean, load, use, and work with your airbrush. If you don't have those fundamentals, you're gonna find the whole process really frustrating, and you're gonna give up on it, and then you're gonna feel like you wasted your money on an airbrush when you could have just gotten more models, right? So for me, I wouldn't recommend it for a beginner. I wouldn't say you have to be advanced either. I'd say it's like once you've mastered the basics and you've like painted your first 30, 40, 50, 60 models and you've mastered the concepts of like highlighting and shading and lighting and how to place like how to control your brush. Because here's the thing, the airbrush is still a brush, which means the same kind of control that you might have with like a brush at close distance. Like I paint with my airbrush in a way that is very much like how I paint with a brush. And so if you don't have good control, hand-eye coordination and brush control, you're not going to get to have good airbrush control either. Um, and I think that's a big part of like the good use of airbrush is having that like level of control. So anyways, that's my long rant about airbrushing. Definitely worth an investment down the road, but like for the two or $300 it's going to take you to get set up with it, a compressor you're probably looking. I don't know where you live, Rick. I live in Canada, but like a decent compressor, probably around 150 bucks, 200 bucks. A decent airbrush, probably around 100 to 150 bucks. Plus you need like some tools. You want like cleaner, you want flow improver. Um, yeah, I agree with JB. So you just have to have a better. You just have there's a lot of things that you need to fundamentals that you really need to understand before getting into airbrushing that I think are important. But it's not. What I will say is it's not this like scary thing. I think a lot of people think that airbrushing is this like really difficult thing and it's really hard. But like if you understand the basics and the fundamentals of like how to use paint, your viscosity of your paint, highlighting, uh, color theory, just like JB said, like it's not that bad. Where it gets complicated is like how to take that and then apply it to your model. Um, and so, yeah, I would definitely recommend holding off until you got a little bit more, like little more under your belt. Or alternatively, if you have someone, the only other time I would say recommend it for a beginner is if you have someone in your community or in your like group of people that can sit with you and do it with you, like side by side. Then I don't think there's anything wrong with learning on an airbrush that way. But what I will say is like I wouldn't recommend an airbrush for someone who doesn't have the kind of ability to like have someone kind of take them through it. Um, and if at that point, if you have someone that's able to sit down with you and teach you the airbrush, get them to just teach you regular brush instead, because you're gonna get way more mileage out of that. Even the models that I have that are like very heavily airbrushed, I still do a lot of brush work on them because um, the airbrush can only do. There's only certain things that the airbrush can do, and so you can't. I want when I do when I airbrush a model, I want the end result to look like I didn't airbrush it. Whereas there's some people that use an airbrush in a way that I really don't like, and you look at their models and you're like, yeah, that was airbrush. It's just like it just looks like an airbrush, like that's like an airbrush job where it's like they sprayed this, sprayed that, through some OSL object source lighting, airbrush here, did some like really crazy like no edge highlighting, no like shading, no like, and it doesn't. I don't think it looks good. It just looks very like I think it looks pretty bad. So I always recommend that the airbrush is just like one tool in your arsenal, and that you should still be doing a lot of brush work. So yeah, I don't know if that helps. All right. Oh, excuse me. Let's see here. I'm really confused by like. All right, Rick. Thanks for tuning in, man. And if you have any other questions or need any sort of guidance, feel free to shoot me a DM on Twitch or YouTube. Always happy to help. I'll be streaming every night too, so if you want to pop in and ask questions, happy to happy to help you any way I can. All right, what do I want to do next? Finish the maggots. I think that's probably what I'll do. Go in and do some maggot highlighting. This is the fun part, guys. Highlighting the little ridges on each of these maggots. Um, so one thing I did want to talk about is the new Warzone book. So I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read it, but it's pretty awful for Death Guard, to be honest. I'm not sure what Games Workshop was thinking, but it's not good. It's not good. The downsides to using actually I do like the extra flavor for 5 points. It seems like a pretty good deal. But for in general don't you love that I just opened this Nagaroth Night? Don't you love that like sound and opening of like a brand new paint? Oh look at that! Look how smooth that is. Ooh baby, get nice and wet. Yeah, the Warzone book is not good for Death Guard. What you give up for like the bonuses is pretty trash. Yeah, like all the stratagems are 2 CP or 3 CP. They're like not only are all the stratagems 2 and 3 CP, but like they make your 1 CP stratagems 2 CP like your strategic reserves. And on top of that, like they're like, hey, we're gonna encourage you to play an army that deep strikes, but not give you any actual way to charge out of deep strike better. Like you'd think they would have given them like a reroll charge out of deep strike relic, warlord trait, maybe like a +2 to charge, like anything. It's just awful, I think, as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, the downsides, like if you could take Morty in it, that would actually be maybe kind of fun. The thing is, the things that you want to take, like, okay, so like, for instance, I can deep strike Poxwalkers, which is okay, I guess, but like, I don't really want to deep strike Poxwalkers. And then in general, like the things that you want to take in your list, like Death Shroud, they can already deep strike. You're giving up on, I think, way too much. I just think you give up way too much. I think it could be fun with like a full Plague Marine army. You wanted to go like full Plague Marine Poxwalker, and then like a few units of Death Shroud, and just deep strike units of Plague Marines. That could be fun, right? So like create like MSU. The problem is that you're just gonna be CP hungry, right? Like in a list like that, I think all you want is a battalion because you need to start with as many CP as possible. And I just don't feel like maybe deep striking like 2 or 3 units of Plague Marines could be fun. But at that point, like I just want to take a drill. You know? It just doesn't make sense to me. And I get that like they didn't want to have them like too powerful, but then like yeah, it's just the fact that it's like a $70 book. Like there's no way I'm buying that book. Zero chance. Well, I already. And the thing that pisses me off is, and I was talking about this on the Exterminatus podcast, which is another podcast that I'm on. Like, I already have a copy of the book, like a digital copy. That's like awful. It's like a shitty ass PDF that has been sent to me through various illicit sources, and I would pay for I would pay for a digital copy of the book. I would pay for it 1,000%. If it was like $50 or $40, if I could get a code and a digital copy, I would pay for it. Maybe $50. But now because I can't get a digital copy, guess what? How much I'm paying for it? Zero. Because there's no chance I'm buying a hard copy of that book for $70. $70 is a box of intercessors or a box of Chaos Space Marines, 10 models. Why would I pay that for a book? Like that's like a full Death Guard codex is $60 in Canadian. So like when it comes to like value and like what I'm getting for it, it's like so out of whack. I just don't understand GW sometimes. Like I want to give them my money, you know, but they don't want my money, I guess. So that's okay. Yeah, $70. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. And the thing I don't like about the 40K like storyline stuff, like, yeah, cool. Okay, we got this cool like Warzone, but like, at least with AOS, it feels like when they release these things, it does kind of like move the overall storyline along somehow. Like we've been in the fucking Indominus Crusade, Citrix Maledictum since 8th edition. It's 5 years later, and like it's like 5 years later. Like what has happened uh since 8th edition dropped as far as background? The last big thing that happened was um Magnus and Mortarion returning at the start of 8th, and Gilman coming back. Since then, there's literally been zero advancement in the storyline. In fact, there's actually been retcons where they've changed the time. Like Indominus was supposed to be 200 years after, or sorry, the game in 8th was set 200 years after the Citradix Malediction and the 13th Black Crusade. But they, for some reason, decided they're going to retcon that, and now they've kind of reset the timeline. So now 9th edition is basically Indominus Crusade, which is only like 12 to 15 years after that event, which makes no sense because then why would there be like Space Marine veterans and Blade Guard veterans? Like that was, I thought the whole point of those like veteran models was like, hey, yeah, they've been fighting in the Indominus Crusade for 200 years, and here's what they look like. Not 12 years, right? Like 12 years, like they barely farted out a Space Marine. So it's kind of annoying. Yeah, Silent King's back. That's about it. But like, what has the Silent King done? Okay, he's back. It's not like he caused any sort of actual like change in the Imperium, right? He's just okay. He's back. Okay, cool. So there's rules from the game. Cool. But like, what storyline wise? What? How did he actually change the overall storyline? Right? Like he didn't, right? Or at least when like Mortarion and like Magnus and Gilman came back, there was actual like progression. Like things had happened around that. Whereas the Silent King being back is while cool, doesn't actually change the fact that like the 40k universe is still the exact same whether he's in it or he's out of it. You know, he didn't his return didn't actually cause anything. I thought the whole buildup of Psychic Awakening was for something cool to happen. Literally, the last book's called Pariah Nexus, which is supposed to be like Necron shit, and like nothing really came of it. Like it kind of just fizzled out. And now we're in Warzone, fucking Charchadon or whatever the hell you say it, and like things are basically the same fundamentally. So I just don't understand what's going on with this game in the background. God damn, these maggots are annoying. Almost there though. I just watched Zack Snyder's Justice League. Has anyone seen that? The new one? Speaking of random random things, I just finished it last night. Actually, I thought I enjoyed it. I think I definitely enjoyed it more than the original. Um, it kind of almost made me want to see a sequel because it really built up like the Dark Side story, Dark Side, whatever his name. So I thought that was really cool. Um, Dude, I just finished. Yeah, there's some good 30k novels. 40k, sorry. Like I don't read any of the main storyline 40k novels. Like I read the Horus Heresy, and I'll read like obviously I think I just mentioned it last time, but I just finished Penitent from Dan Abnett, from the Beckwith trilogy, which was amazing. But like the main 30k novels, like uh like I don't know, the ones with like Gilliman and stuff. I read the first one that Guy Haley wrote. I forget what it's called, like Indominus, and then they kind of rewrote them for ninth edition, and I don't know. The problem with the 30k the 40k novels is they read too much like a giant. Um, yeah, Braid Dagger is 30k. The 40k novels read too much like a giant advertisement. It's like, and Gilliman pointed to the assault intercessors who fired their las cannon, and then they embarked from a Space Marine impulsor, and then walked over to the Space Marine Inceptor squad. Like it's literally like it's like they make an effort to like call out like unit names and like stuff like that, and it's like okay, is this a story or is this like a big product placement? You know what I'm saying? Um, and whereas with the 30k novels, they don't really do that. And also like the novels where it's like the Eisenhorn trilogy, for instance, like there's literally it's like not at all related to like anything that you actually play in game. So I like that. It feels more like an actual character-driven story. Yeah, I read oh, what was that? I'm gonna pull up my Audible for a sec here. I'll tell you which one. Audible. So I use Audible, which is amazing. I would highly recommend it. Yeah, I have a credit. Sweet. My library. Okay, so I'll tell you which books are bad. Uh, where is it? So Dark Imperium by Guy Haley, which was like the book that came out uh, when 40K was like released. So I read that or listened to it. It's basically like after Cadia has fallen and like Gilliman basically like the aftermath of that. And it's that book is very much written in the way where it's like it feels like product placement. And then Plague War, which is the sequel to that, which I've also listened to, is also the same. It's like they're like, and then what happened was, so Plague War and Dark Imperium came out, and this is the stupidest thing. So here, listen how stupid this is. So Dark Imperium came out at the start of 8th edition. Plague War came out slightly thereafter, I believe. Let me just click here. Oh, it's not available anymore. And I'll tell you why it's not available anymore. So Dark Imperium Plague War came out like maybe 2 years later. And then at the start of 9th edition, and both Dark Imperium and Plague War were set in the like the new universe, and they were basically set 200 years after the Citrix Maledictum, which is when the timeline was supposed to be. But what they did was when Indominus released, they basically retconned that whole part of 8th edition that said that like the timeline was 200 years later, and Indominus is set like 12 years later from the end of Citrix Malediction, and then they took those two books, Plague War and Dark Imperium, re-edited them, and then re-released them, newer versions, based, and they changed the timeline in those books, exact same books minus a few changes, and then they just changed the timeline to now be set the same timeline as Indominus. So they basically retconned 200 years of the background, which I thought was ridiculous. Um, and then yeah, like it just doesn't make any sense. It's like GW is just on crack sometimes. Um, so which I think is really dumb. But I actually don't think I like Guy Haley because he did Titan Death, which I really didn't like. He did do The Lost and Damned, which I did enjoy. What else did he do for 30K? Pharos was awful. Oh, gross. Pharos is one of the worst books. I think actually, yeah, I don't like Guy Haley. It sucks. Anyways, the whole thing was stupid. What happens when you try to be cute and make money? What do you mean you can't do Audible? How do you read when you paint though? That's when I like to listen to audiobooks. It can't be that hard, you know? I feel. It's almost as if like they like had this really cool idea for 8th edition with like the timeline and stuff. And then after they did it, um what Discord channel? For me? I don't have a Discord channel. I'm not that advanced yet, man. I've been streaming for like 3 weeks. And there's like 6 people that watch my stream. So, when there's enough of a um critical mass for me to create a Discord channel and people are watching, then I will create a Discord channel. Why does everything have to have a Discord channel these days? You know? Am I missing out here? Is there some branding thing where I should be having a Discord channel? Okay, I lied. There actually is a Discord channel, but there's like no one in it. So I can here, I'll give you guys the I said there wasn't a Discord channel. There actually is, but it's just me and David Koska currently in it. I'll post the link in the chat. Here you go. There's my Discord channel. But the only reason I use it is for like our Discord like interviews and stuff. But there's literally no one in it, and there's nothing going on in there. So feel free to join it. But there's nothing going on, basically. Yeah, I didn't honestly. I'm like, I guess I'm a boomer, but like, I literally used Discord for the first time like 6 months ago, and I didn't understand why people were using it. I was like, what's wrong with like Facebook or like, I don't know, fucking. I feel like I'm in so many different things. Like I'm in a Facebook group and then a Discord group for the Facebook group and then like a internet message forum for the Facebook group and then like a YouTube channel for the Facebook group for the Discord group. It's very complicated. Can't keep track with you Zennials, millennials. Well, I'm actually a millennial. I know I said I was a boomer, but I'm actually a millennial. But I feel like the Gen Z, was it Gen the what's the youngest? The Zennials? Is that what they're called? I feel like the TikTok generation. I can't do it. I downloaded TikTok for like 2 seconds, and I felt like I was gonna have a seizure because I was like assaulted by like a bunch of weird people dancing, even though I didn't want to see any of it. There was like people people dancing for me, uh, unsolicited dancing. So I just got rid of it. Um, yeah, it's pretty funny. I definitely feel like I feel like I'm getting boomer status with like my Discord inability to use Discord. I don't even like Facebook. You know, the only reason I created a Discord is because lots of people like don't do Facebook. They're like anti Mark Zuckerberg these days. So like I created a Discord just so that there's like a non Facebook place to like take some of the stuff. But like I don't know, man. Between all the different social media platforms, it just feels exhausting sometimes. I can't imagine if I was like doing TikTok too. Like that just seems so crazy. I don't know if people have time for that shit. And now everything has TikToks. Like you can do like TikToks on Instagram. You can do like Reels on, oh no, Reels on Instagram. They're called like twats or twits or I don't even know what the fuck they're called on Twitter. Um, Something like that. Can't really keep track. Yeah, Kenny's Kenny's allowed to like TikTok. I give him a pass because he's a legend. And I keep as I'm painting these, I'm like, oh, there's another maggot I missed. Now we're gonna go back. Nice. Yeah, maggots. Yeah, I don't know what they're called on. Does anyone know what they're called on the little like TikTok things on Twitter? They should be called twats because I think only twats do them. That'd be funny. Yeah, I like Kenny. He's a good guy. Solid dude. And honestly, like I don't know why, but some people give him a hard time, but I think his content's great. He puts out awesome videos. He taught me a lot about how to airbrush just through his videos and stuff. I think he's a great like content producer. And I don't know why people sometimes like I love his like style. Like I love his mannerisms and like his yo dogs and his like ancient Chinese techniques. I think that's like it's fucking hilarious and I love him for it. And so anyone that kind of gives him a hard time for that kind of shit, I think they're useless and have no taste. Because I'm all about the ancient Chinese techniques, you know. Now I don't know if that's racist or not, but I feel like probably in some places that's racist. But whatever. Yeah, I think he puts out great content. Awesome. And the way he presents it and like really like demystifies a lot of the scariness of like airbrushing and stuff, I think is like amazing. The monument materials? I don't know if I know what that is. Oh, you mean? Oh yeah, man, Pro Rock Roll. That's what I use. This is all Pro Rock Roll down here. It's like my favorite paints by far. Love these things. So I have so I don't know if you guys know this, but Pro Rock Roll actually was started by Creature Caster, and they I guess eventually split, but back when Creature Caster started, sorry, when Monument Hobbies had partnered with Creature Caster and Creature Caster was doing all the Pro Rock Rolls from their website. I'm friends with the Creature Caster guys because they're based out of BC. So they actually most of my paints are the old bottles because they're all OG from the very OG first batches of Paracle. So I've been using Paracle for a long time, and now I have some of the newer bottles that as I've been running out. But most of my paints are like from like the OG batches. Like I actually got like some of the original colors like pre-released before they had even been released to the public to test. So I love the guys. Yeah, sorry. The thing is, I guess what I was trying to say is like you couldn't get them through Monument didn't have their own platform. So originally when Paracle was released, it was all through the Creature Caster platform. And then I know they didn't make the paints, but they did bottle them in BC, from what I understand. Because I talked to Simon Sung, who's one of the co-owners of Creature Caster, and he would tell me stories about how they're like literally like bottling paint by hand. So um, yeah, I'm gonna be doing some stuff for them because they got a new game coming out um, called Judgment. They got a Kickstarter coming out in a little while, but yeah, I remember. I want to actually get Simon onto the show one time to talk about it, but I remember the original. I don't know how long you've been following them, but if you're in the original Kickstarter, but I remember like the guy doing update videos on like YouTube from the original Kickstarter, where it was like 2 years after like the Kickstarter, and he's like, I'm still doing 3D sculpts and like trying to get molds made and like yeah, Jeremy and all that kind of stuff. I just remember watching that, and I think Ultraforge. I was gonna say he used to work for Ultraforge, so you know the history too, right? So he used to work for Ultraforge, and then they broke off. He broke off, started Creature Caster. I remember the original videos on Kickstarter, and he was like doing updates. Like he's like, and he was like literally in his like living room crying. Basically, he'd show the 3D sculpts, like he'd show his like Blender sculpts or whatever, ZBrush, whatever he used. But then he'd basically be like having mental breakdown, um, talking about like the process of getting the molds made and like the models made. And I was like, oh god. But yeah, so it was like that was a long time ago, man. Fuck. But um, I'm glad that they're doing a lot better now and a little bit more organized because I don't think that would have been sustainable. Kickstarter, I think that happens to a lot of people. I think a lot of people look at Kickstarter and they're like, oh, like, I'll just put up my idea and maybe they think it's going to be like fairly small, but then sometimes people's ideas like get like blow up. I very rarely do Kickstarters. I have a few buddies like in our like game group that are like Kickstarter addicts. Like they're always throwing in on Kickstarters here and there. And it's a lot of miniature games and stuff like that. Um, and like they'll be like, "Hey, I did this Kickstarter 3 years ago, and the models finally showed up," or they'll be like, "Hey, I did a Kickstarter, and like the company went under." Like the amount of times I feel like that the Kickstarter totally blows up in their face, blows up in faces. The only two Kickstarters I've done, I did the Kickstarter with Emil from Squidmar for his brushes. I don't know if you guys know, you guys watch Squidmar at all. Um, so he did a set of brushes. These guys, Squidmar brushes, and I will tell you, and this is like, I hope not any reflection on Emil, the fucking brushes are awful. So I got a set of these brushes through Squidmar, like the Klinsky Sable. There's like a pretty big, decent size set, and the fucking brushes are awful. They're split so bad. Like this is just like a big brush I've been using for washes and stuff, but basically like, let me see if I can find one. Um, yeah, the brushes are not good. Like this is, I don't know if you can see this. So this is the number two Squidmar brush, and like literally like it like doesn't hold up. I had to trim so many spray like split hairs from it, just to get it to the point where like it wouldn't have like it would have a little bit of a point. And even now, every time I use it, I like brush condition it and I like pull it into a super sharp point and I let it sit and like kind of condition into that point. And then after like 10 minutes of use, it splays again. And so like a lot of my other like a lot of my other brushes, Squidmore, I literally haven't even taken the shield off. I have the whole set. Um, my favorite brushes right now, and I use everything. Like I use like Winsor Newtons. These are like I'm using some Series 7 here. But my favorite brushes by far, my main driver, um, is these guys, the Rosemary & Co. The number one and the number two. They're like they're by far my favorite. Um, I wouldn't call them like like they're my most, I guess, like used brushes because they're like I love the length of the tip and I love that they come to a really nice point. And so and because of the like the way that they stay as like really nice point, and then they're quite cheap too, like for Sable brushes. What am I looking for? Oh yeah, putting it back. I also got the Artist Opus ones, and I got two sets of those from their Kickstarter, I believe. And I never really liked those either. They haven't been good to me. So I have a bit of a brush problem. Um, and then these are just like yeah, and so these are just brand new brushes that like I haven't even used. These are all like Klinsky Sable. I got like Winsor Newton in here. I got some Squidmar brushes. I got like the MIG brushes. I got like Rosemary & Co. Like there's so many. I have a complete brush addiction. Um, and anytime I see like a new brush brand, I buy them because I'm like, oh sorry. Oh. Yeah, I haven't tried the Broken Toad, so now I'm gonna try them, and I can have even more brushes. I feel. But yeah, my favorite brushes so far have been my Rosemary and Co's, and that was after like 7 or 8 years of using Winsor Newton Series 7 exclusively. But I don't know, I just found that like over time, like the quality of the Winsor Newtons has gone down, and I've got a lot more splits and a lot more like right out of the right brand new, I'm getting a lot more splits and stuff, which is unfortunate. To be fair, like I've never had there's not one brush that is like perfect, but or that like I've never had issues with. I've had issues with my Rosemary and Co's too, but generally they're fairly minor, like maybe like one split hair. Um, I have a bomb wick somewhere in here. Uh, yeah, I just have one because I got it from. Do I have a bomb wick? What do I got? Where I had a bomb wick somewhere in my pile of brushes. That's rosemary, mig, rosemary, artificer. I even got some artificer brushes from GW. Don't ever buy those. They're awful. Squidmar. Ah, I do have a bomb wick, and I've never used it. It's in my, as I said, I'm a total mental case. Uh, I have literally like this is like my, these are like my brand new brushes that I've never used, and then these are like my brushes that I use mostly. So I got, and I just organize them by size. So I have my fat brushes, my medium size, and then my small size. And you can see how many are brand new that still have their caps on. So I have a brush problem. Let's see, then help. But yeah, I organize them by brush. I have all my zeros and double zeros in one little slot, all my ones and twos, and then all my like dry brushes and like big wash brushes in another section. And then I got all these ones that are like brand new that I've never used. So yeah, there's like MIG brushes, Series 7, dry brushes. I got some synthetic brushes too for like glue and stuff like that as well. Put in there. I have an issue, but like it's weird. I kind of go through. I feel like I use like I have like these like this is like my mixing brush for like mixing brushes. This is also like an older. This is an older. So you want to see something funny, guys? Check this out. So see these brushes? These are the exact same brush. So you can see how much I use my rosemaries. So this first one on the top is like an old Rosemary & Co. series size 2 that I just beat the shit out of and use for like mixing water now. And then the one on the bottom is like a newer one. So just look at this. Look at the length of the bristles. Isn't that crazy? And I haven't cut that. That's just from like licking on it over like 1,000 years and like just destroying it. So this one I use for like just mixing paint, but the other ones I use for But then for like my main drivers right now, I'll use this is a Winsor Newton Series 700, and then my size 1. Those are like literally the two brushes I'll use for 90% of my painting, and it just works for everything. Thanks for the follow, JB. By the way. All right, where was I? Where was I on these things? I think I was trying to do maggots, and then I got sidetracked with it. I got in the brush weeds. We're done. It's done. It's done. All right, I think that's all my maggots. Maggots are done. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna try I have one bomb wick. I just haven't gotten around to using it. Like, it's so hard for me to like. I don't know. I have this weird like thing where if I have a brush that I haven't used before, I don't want to use it unless like all my other brushes are the same size. But like, here's my like, here are the open size ones and twos that I have. So these are just my size ones and twos. See my bomb wick in there? Oh no, it's not even there. These are my size ones and twos. My bomb wick is in this group, which are my size zeros. And see all the ones with plastic, those are brand new. So I don't want to really open it because it's like I have all these other size zeros and smaller that I should be using before I open the bomb wick. I still have like my squid Mars, like you can see these squid Mars, they're all still in plastic because I never bothered using. So anyways, send help, guys. I think I need brush therapy. Okay, what am I gonna do next on these guys? I think I'm gonna do the black. So the halves of all the weapons and all the tubes. Make a nice part. It's actually, so it's kind of funny. The way I paint my models, because I hold on to them, I always do like the things like the trim and the edges and the bone very last because I'm generally holding on to them. So that's why I'm trying to do kind of everything on the inside first, and then I'll go back later and I'll do the outside. Actually, I'm gonna do the spells, I think. That is what I will do because I was already painting. Pro Acryl Ivory. This is such a nice bone color and like it's got such good coverage. Highly recommend. Yeah, I'm very methodical, man, when it comes to my painting. I like to like do everything kind of I mean, I've painted. I was trying to pull it up for you guys, but I'm just actually completely terrible. So let me see if I can again pull it up. So I'm gonna show you guys two pictures. Okay, so this is all the Death Guard infantry I've painted since start of lockdown. So the only thing that I was from pre-lockdown was my Mortarion. Um, is my Mortarion, and I think this Demon Prince. Almost everything else I painted since lockdown. So the reason that I'm very methodical is because I've painted all of these models almost exactly the same method. So that's why. Yeah. That's just why, because it's like I've done it so many times now with these guys that like I do everything in a specific order. Is that for a commission or is that for yourself? Nice. So why do you have to do it in 2.5 weeks? Do you have an event coming up, or just because you want to paint it that fast? Shit. See, I'm actually really good. It's very rare that I'm like the kind of person that rushes to paint for events. Like I almost always am so far ahead of the game. I don't think I've ever stayed up late to paint. I think the closest thing that I've come to ever painting like in a rush for event was maybe LVO, like last LVO, and I think I was painting Possessed like a week before the tournament, and that was like the closest I've ever been to having to paint things before an event. It was like a week before, because I just get anxiety otherwise. But I could not do that. Where's the event and how big is it? Also, I'm very jealous that you're getting to play an event. Sweet. Oh wow. How are you gonna paint 2,000k of Death Guard in 2.5 weeks? It'll probably take you 2.5 weeks just to paint all the maggots on this Death Guard. No joke. Oh nice. I didn't realize you were in Australia, dude. Get some of his chaos jank to rub off on you or what? Yeah, you gotta just like absorb his like life force at night or something, and then you'll win. Yes. So I've decided I'm just gonna paint all the like weird scully things. Kind of flayed skin. Yeah. I is he taking Death Guard? Or is he taking like his kind of the similar Chaos Jank that he was playing at that Adelaide event that he won? Or can you not tell me otherwise you'll have to kill me? Secret this tech. I think the problem with pure Death Guard though is like they're just not fast enough. I think in certain missions they're at a real disadvantage. Unless you like really build that into your list. I just finished painting 2 Contemptors, so pretty good, man. They're pretty good shooting for Death Guard, especially with the Tallyman and like many shrunken heads to. One thing I don't like about Chaos, like I was always like the very clean aesthetic with Chaos. I hate it when there's too many like weird like Ghibli bits like heads and like I don't know. Compared to like painting Space Marines and Imperium shit, Chaos takes so long. It's like between the trim and like all the skulls and the spikes and the like body parts and like the nurglings on the bases, like it's like god damn it. Like a single Chaos model, like a Chaos Marine versus an Imperial Marine, it's like 3 times as long. Especially Death Guard. It's like Death Guard's just insane. The amount of time I spend. Like I gotta finish 20 Terminators, Loyalist Terminators in this time. I agree, man. I agree. I just want like that's why I'm excited for like maybe like a possible Slanesh release. I'm hoping like although it is detailed, it's not going to be like super like I don't know. The Thousand Suns are quite intricate too, like all the Thousand Suns, like between all the trim and like the scroll work and the like the white and blue or the yellow and blue alternating things, like in their little hats and stuff. Like there's just so much extra there. I'm really hoping the new if we do get new Slanesh Marines at some point, it's like down a little bit more like I guess. I like the purple and gold. I did my got my let me grab some Pyrium for you. Where are you? Fabius. You're Fabius. Ah, I see. Party. Old just on me. So this is my Fabius. Did kind of deep classic purple, gold. And then I scratch built a Lucius from the Eidolon model. There's all. That tongue is from a bloodletter. That's why it's so long. They have like those crazy tongues. I like basically inserted a bloodletter tongue. I like that purple. That's based off the Eidolon. Eidolon and a Chaos Space Marine legs. And then I did like a skin cloak kind of in the back. Yeah. This whip. So I bought the Slanesh chariot, the secret chariot, just for this piece. The whole chariot, like the one with the spikes, the demonettes. I bought the whole $40 kit. It's only $40, I think, just for this one whip piece. That's stupid purchases by me. But totally worth it. Totally worth it. I was painting skulls. Skulls for the Skull Throne. Yeah, I'm really curious if we do get a Emperor's Children or you know, it'd be really cool. Emperor's Children versus Eldar. Like when the Eldar get their kind of big release, they did like Emperor's Children versus Eldar. I could fuck with that real hard. I almost started an Elder army right when Yunari was kind of broken, but I I sold it. That's the only time I've bought stuff for an army and then got rid of it before I opened it. Very rare. Usually once I commit, I commit. But yeah, I don't know. I hope the Eldar get their I want Eldar to get new stuff because like their models are awful, but I also think Eldar always get some special treatment every edition whenever their book comes out. Like they're always OP for a while, so I'm not looking forward to that part of the potential new Eldar release. The part where they're like OP for 4 months. They get nerfed and they're like destroying all the space. I heard a rumor that they're gonna get like the old jump shoot jump from like 7th edition, and that they're gonna have like transhuman built in, but for hit rolls. So like they can't ever be hit on like better than a 2+ or 4+, for instance. Those are two rumors I heard, but quote me now. I'll come back to this episode in 6 months whenever the book's released, and you can tell me if I was right or wrong. Remember this. Remember this moment. I told you. I gave you the Eldar. Nice dude. I'm probably gonna finish these little heads here, and then I'm probably gonna call it just because I gotta go eat dinner. Calls, but appreciate everyone stream. If you guys are not, uh, yeah, dude, it's brutal. Um, I think like the I mean, I think the Corn Berserkers might be older, mostly Eldar range, so I don't really feel bad. They desperately need like Corn Berserkers desperately need an update. They must have new Corn Berserker sculpts somewhere. Like I refuse to believe that they haven't redone them. I kind of just feel like they're waiting for the right time to kind of. But yeah, the thing is though, the Eldar range actually holds up quite well. Like the fact that they're fine cast is the biggest issue because fine cast sucks. But the actual like sculpts themselves, like they do hold up pretty well as far as like the design aesthetic. The Corn Berserkers do not hold up at all. Like they look horrendous. They don't fit with the rest of the range, right? Um, I do feel like Eldar do though. Like how many more editions are they going to make them wait to get new aspect warriors plus Augusta warriors? You know, it seems like not the way that GW releases. Yeah, man, I'm telling you, you know it's there. I'm curious what they're going to do with this whole Primarch thing because like I get that they don't want to like drop a Primarch every fucking you know every other year, but okay, so it's been what 5 years since Gilliman dropped. Like at one point, and I remember the Dark Angels Codex in like 8th edition. It was like, yeah, basically the lion's chilling. We're confirmed. We know that confirmed that the lion is alive. We know that like Lehman Russ is basically probably alive. Vulcan could come back. It's unclear what happened to him. The only ones you really can't have come back are Ferris Manus and Sanguinius. But all the other Primarchs, I kind of feel like are the Loyalist Primarchs. Even Rogel Dorn, they kind of retconned his death, where like they only ever found his hand, right? Like originally, I think he did die, but then they retconned it at some point where like they only find his hand. So like even he could come back, although I hope he doesn't because he sucks. But how cool would it be if like the lion came back and him and Sanguinius or him and like Gilman like had fucking full on beef, or like a Wolfen Leaving Russ emerges after 10,000 years of fighting the Eye of Terror, like full on Wolfen old man Russ. That would be pretty cool. Is that the one from Rabid Dog that you ordered? The 3D sculpt? Because I ordered that as well. Check on that. Yeah, man. I'm telling you. I feel like yeah, like even like the Chaos Primarchs. I mean, obviously all of them could come back um minus Horus. And were any others killed? Uh, no, I think they all. So Pertrov is Demon Prince, Angron's Demon Prince, Magnus is Demon Prince, Borgar's Demon Prince. Oh yeah, Conrad Cruz was killed. So only Night Lords can't get theirs back. So Conrad Cruz is dead. Horus is obviously dead, so that's two. So the other six are very much well alive and all Demon Princed. Yeah, so Conrad Cruz is dead, and so is Horus, obviously. So that's seven. 7 out of 9 are dead. But they should, man. I think the whole like unaligned, like depending on what like look at Be'lakor, right? He's an undivided demon, and he got a new sculpt. So that whole concept of like chaos undivided is still very much a thing, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if we see uh, something like that in the future. Hopefully in the new demon book, there's like rules on like running like kind of unaligned, like mixed legions. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't need a full Iron Warriors book or a full Off Legion book. I just hope they get a decent rules treatment in the Chaos Space Marine Codex. But for the cult legions, so Khorne, Tzeentch, so for Thousand Sons of Death Guard we already have, but definitely World Eaters and Emperor's Children should at least get those. All the ones that are non, like Black Legion, Alpha Legion, so Black Legion, Alpha Legion, and Iron Warriors. That's am I missing one? And Night Lords. Those are all the undivided legions. They can all be in the Chaos Space Marine with like just like Legion traits and stratagems. I'd be fine with that. But the other ones definitely need books. That had So okay, well with Alfarius, um, in I think I can't remember which book it is in the Horus Heresy series. He's killed by Rogel Dorn on a battle of like this cruise ship, but it's also Alfarius. So like it's not clear if actually he's actually dead because they even have a point uh, where like after he's killed, there's like a meeting of all the Primarchs and Alfarius is there, and like basically I think people think it's maybe Omegon, but was then Omegon killed and Alfarius was actually the real one? Like you know what I'm saying? Like it's just never it's Alpha Legion shit, right? So it's like even if they said it was Alfarius that died, it's like was it actually Alfarius? And I think that's the cool part about the Alpha Legion. So it could have just as easily been kind of the double reversal, you know? Who knows with Alpha Legion? I uh I won't spoil too much of it. Uh, if you guys have not read Penitent by Dan Abnett, which is in the Eisner trilogy, but there's a marine, a chaos marine in the book at some point, and like someone at one point like the main character asks what his name is, and he's like, my name's Alfarius. So like, and he's just like a chaos marine, and he's Alpha Legion, but he's like, I am Alfarius. So it's like, I don't know, it's just cool because I'm like, yeah, it's like, damn right you are. But he's even alive in like 40k, you know, according to some. Um, 30k books I should read. I would start with just the original trilogy uh, for the Horus Heresy. So Horus Rising, Galaxy in Flames, and uh, third one, God, something of the gods. Jesus, I can remember. Horus Rising, Galaxy in Flames. I'm gonna tell you right now because I actually have the Horus Heresy reading order bookmarked because I'm not that much of a weirdo. The bookmarks. What is Heresy? Galaxy False Gods. I knew it was God something. Thanks, JB. I was like, fuck, it's God something. I couldn't remember it. Those are the ones I'd start with, and then From there, if you like it, there's definitely some books in the series that I would skip if you don't want to get like absolutely everything. Because there are some books that are kind of feel like they don't really have any relation to like the main storyline. They're kind of filler books, but definitely read definitely read those three. Flight of the Eisenstein is particularly good. So is yeah, just a lot of books. I didn't love Fulgrim. I don't know, Fulgrim I feel like in the books, and I'll try not to spoil too much for you, Exarath. Legion's really good. Legion's really good. Um, Honestly, man, if you're really into it, just read them all. It's weird to read. I think it's really weird to like read a book series and then have books where like you don't know what happens in them. I can never do that. Like the completionist in me, I'm one of those like RPG completionists that like wants to get 100% completion when I play like Final Fantasy or something, or I play like other RPGs. I try to get like 100% completion or as close as I can. I never like to like leave quests undone. So my the way I read is like that too. I need to get 100% completion on my reading. Yeah, like Pharaohs was awful. Fucking oh, what was the worst one with the dinosaurs? Um, Deliverance, is it Deliverance Lost? Or there were some pretty bad ones. There's one they basically just it's like there's one where they just like fight on a dinosaur planet for like yeah, for like fucking the whole book and yeah, and you're like, okay, what's the point of this like it could have just been a standalone book of like uh Marines fighting dinosaurs and it had like literally nothing to do with Horse Heresy. Um Pythos. Damnation of Pythos, that's what it's called. Fucking awful. Alright, so all the little skulls are done. Little gnarly skulls. Alright guys, I'm gonna call it there. Thanks for tuning in. Please make sure to follow me on Twitch and YouTube if you are not. I'm going to be doing some streaming tomorrow as well, 6 p.m. Pacific, and then later this week I'll be playing some TTS games as well. So if you guys are interested in checking out some high-level TTS, the World Team Championships, Greek Hammer event, please follow the channel, click the little bell icon, and turn on notifications so you know when to go live. Otherwise, you can check out my Instagram, jimbov_paints, and at Duplicity Studio on Instagram, and I'll be posting the schedule for streaming there. But other than that, have a great night. Thanks for tuning in. Much love, and I will talk to you guys later.